Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our April 14th, 2025 business meeting. Thanks for bearing with us this evening. We were running a little bit late with some closed session items. We are now ready to begin. Sorry, I'm finding my place here. I think we're ready to begin with a
We need
motion
to
to
make,
amend.
yeah, I need to make an emotion, a motion. It's been that kind of day. I would like to move to amend the agenda to go back into closed session to discuss personnel matters at the end of the meeting. So.
Thank you, Ms. Lord. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Cave. Any discussion? All those in favor of returning to closed session or moving that to the end of our board meeting at the very end, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Motion passes 4-0 to modify the agenda. Thank you, Ms. Lohr. We'll now begin with a moment of silence. Thank you. At this time, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. At this time, we'll move into public comments, and we have one signed up for tonight. Would Nicholas Zimmerman please come forward? You'll have 3 minutes, and at about the 2-minute 30 mark, you'll receive a little notification that you're down to 30 seconds.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Shiplett and members of the school board. My name is Nicholas Zimmerman, and I'm currently a family and consumer sciences teacher at Elkton Middle School. And I would also like to say that it was a huge honor to host you all back this fall as our FCCLA chapter officers. I had dinner for you all. In addition, I also serve as the assistant cheer coach at East Rockingham High School. In my first year of teaching in Rockingham County Public Schools, and my 8th year of teaching overall, I would like to say thank you all for providing opportunities for career and technical student organizations, including the organization of FCCLA, or Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America. This organization is an integral part of family and consumer sciences education. I come to you all this evening to express my concern regarding the informational item changes presented for policy IICA, or field trips. Field trips including overnight ones, provide hands-on leadership development, training, competitions, and collaboration for students in grades 6 through 12 involved in career and technical student organizations, or CTSOs, such as FCCLA. The proposed policy change indicates that overnight field trips would be discouraged. I have a building administrator who values an integral CTSO program for all career and technical.
Thank you for your comments. And we usually don't follow up with comments, but I think in this case, we will. Because later you'll see, I think everybody is kind of wondering why we left the field trip policy considerations on the information item. Or in that section. We're definitely not ready for action. We're going to, in individual conversations with board members and having some conversations with CTE teachers who are busy giving us feedback right now, we've decided to go ahead and wait until this summer to pass that policy. And so we would be more than glad to meet with you and collect your feedback on that. And I know other CTE teachers are doing the same. Ms. Laura has had a chance to sit down with them and collect some of their feedback as well, which has been great. The one thing I do want to clarify is the language that it says overnight trips are discouraged. It does look like that is this board's language. That has been the language of this policy for forevermore. And we actually, all of us, before we even publish this, have said, we don't like that. I think that one, I can't say with certainty we're going to discuss it, but I know for me, we're interested in taking out discouraged because I think overnight trips and field trips are wonderful opportunities for students. So we're not discouraging those. We're going to look for better language. So thank you for your comments. Okay, next up on our list is the consent agenda. Board members, do I hear a motion to approve?
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Laura. Is there a second?
You probably should second.
I'm sorry.
Consent agenda.
We have a motion. We have a motion for approval
Second.
of the consent agenda, and now we have a second by Ms. Cave. Thank you, Ms. Cave. Is there any discussion, board members?
Because the consent agenda is new,
Mhm.
do we need to make known to the public that we removed an item at the beginning of our meeting? I just do not, if they see that the personnel listing is on there. So I think we just,
Ordinarily,
since
that's
it's
a great
new,
point.
I don't think we should do that all the time, but.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Cave. Ordinarily, I think our intention is to always stick the personnel listing in there, but we still have some discussion tonight on personnel matters, and so that has been pulled from the consent agenda. If anybody's wondering about the consent agenda, this is only our second time using it, I think. This is something that is typically used for items that will just end up passing with a 5-0 vote. And that saves us just a lot of time. We're going to, if there's nothing, typically we're passing all of the minutes. So rather than having 3 motions for 3 sets of minutes and the personnel listing, which is going to be moved, correct, Ms. Gilkison? And then the field trips that are up for approval, grant funding, which we heard about last week. On items that we expect a 5-0, we're just putting in the consent agenda. Your vote tonight, whether yes or no, applies to all of the items in the list. And if any board member at any point in time wants to pull something off the list and have it put for action separately so that there can be more discussion, a board member only needs to ask. There's no debate about it. We just pull it off and put it back under for discussion. So we knew we had some more work to do on the personnel listing. And so that's been pulled off. That was requested earlier. And so we'll pull that off. That'll be later this evening that'll be posted.
And
So-
does Harrisonburg City Public Schools use consent agenda?
I believe they do. Yeah. It's just a way to make our meetings more efficient.
I'm just going to go ahead and add to just be clear, for clarity. You may see us from time to time pull that personnel listing off the consent agenda as we get into the meeting, because like in this time, we just didn't have time. We got into some other issues. We had a student matter. We didn't have time to get through all the personnel, and we want to give it the attention it deserves. So hopefully our goal is to get it done before the meeting, but we also don't want to keep you guys waiting for 20 minutes while we finish deliberating. So we may see it from time to time on the personnel. So no worries. It's just the process.
Thank you, Ms. Cave and Ms. Lohr. Anything else on this? Okay, we have a motion and properly seconded to approve the consent agenda. All of those in favor, please say yes. Yes?
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Motion passes 4-0. The personnel listing, Ms. Gilkison is under action now. It's going to the end. Okay, thank you. I apologize.
There's a lot of moving parts.
There's moving things over here, and we're going to get it squared away. Okay, next up, we have some action items this evening. Mr. Justin Moyers is coming up to present on athletic training services. Good evening, Mr. Moyers.
Good evening, Chair Horst, members of the board, Dr. Shiflett. Just wanted to come here this evening to get your all approval for us to issue a request for proposal for athletic training services. Right now, we contract athletic training services with Centera, and it is time for us to put that back out for proposal. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. This would be for a total of 5 years, but they would be 5 one-year contracts. So at any point in time, if we wanted to switch something after a year, we could.
Board members, since this is up for action, I would ask for a motion and a second first before we move to discussion with questions. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm really on a roll tonight.
Chair Hurst and board members, I recommend approval of the request to use competitive negotiations via an RFP in lieu of competitive sealed bidding for the athletic training services at East Rockingham and Spotswood High Schools for the 25-26 school year.
Thank you for that recommendation, Dr. Shiflett. Board members, I think we're ready
I
for a
move to
motion.
follow the superintendent's recommendation to approve the request to use competitive negotiations via an RFP in lieu of competitive sealed bidding for athletic training services at East Rockingham and Spotswood High Schools for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr and Ms. Cave for the motion and for the second. Board members, are there any questions or comments for Mr. Moyers? Seems we're squared away. Thank you, Mr. Moyers.
Awesome. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes. Yes. All those opposed say no. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Moyers.
Thank you.
Okay, next up on our list for action items, bid recommendation for bus fleet tires. That's coming to us with Mr. Chris Sowers.
Good evening, Chair Hurst, members of the board, Dr. Shiflett. The bid for bus fleet tires for transportation was properly specified and advertised. 5 firms were sent bid packages. 2 firms responded with a sealed bid as follows: Big L Tire Pros and Rice Tire. My recommendation is to award the contract to Big L Tire Pros, the low bidder, in the amount of $73,833.20.
Thank you, Mr. Sowers. Dr. Shiflett.
Chair Hurst, I recommend that the school board follow Mr. Sowers' recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Shiflett. Board members, do I hear a motion?
I move to follow the superintendent's recommendation to award the bid for bus fleet tires to the low bidder as presented by Chris Sowers, Director of Transportation.
Thank you, Ms. Cave. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr. Board members, are there any questions or comments for Mr. Sowers? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of following the superintendent's recommendations, please say yes. Yes?
Yes.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Sowers.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along, we're into information items. We have several of those. So Mr. Bryant, you're first up with the Special Education Annual Plan and applications for federal funds.
Good evening. Chair Hurst, members of the board, Dr. Shiflett. I have the pleasure of presenting our annual special education plan to you all for your consideration tonight as information item. I want to thank you for a couple of previous school board meetings where you heard our needs and your words spoke loud through the budget approval that I've seen through Chief Finance and HR. So thank you so much for that. A lot of folks to thank. My dream team is one of the number one things to thank, and I've told you all about the dream team. So I thank them. I thank SEAC for going to bat as parents and constituents of our department. Just want to hit some highlights of a packet you may have available in your folders. On the first page, local education agencies, school divisions are required to submit an annual plan that outlines how they will utilize state and federal funds appropriately by guidelines to support all students with disabilities. On page 2, prior to the submission of this annual plan, the VDOE expects each school division to review the annual plan with the Special Education Advisory Committee. That's our parents and our constituents for approval or for their consideration. And we did that last Wednesday, had a lot of good conversation with parents, and they said, green light, go to the board. So that's what we're doing tonight. The school district assures that all policies, procedures, and our programs are in line with IDEA, the law that governs special education. And that kind of summarizes page 2. I'm going to skip back to page 4 if you're following. As another component of the annual special ed plan, we are to review the previous plan to see if we followed what we said we were going to do. In the previous plan in 23-24, we were largely focused on a special education audit. The DOE came in and did lots of visits. The process was completed every 3 years. And during the phase 1, the special education department completed an online document that required work samples, data, policies, and procedures. During phase 2, the DOE came on site, saw over 36 classrooms, did walkthroughs, interviewed principals, teachers, parents, and very thorough. Out of that comes a corrective action plan of needs, areas to improve. We had 7 areas to improve, nothing surprising, very doable. In fact, the quote from the DOE was that this, RCPS has a very doable corrective action plan for special education. So the requests we made in the budget were directly related to meeting those needs of the corrective action plan, and you all helped us with that. Page 5, there is a maintenance of effort expectation every year in school divisions. We need to spend at least as much or more on special education as we have the previous year. I can tell you in just another page or 2 that you have done that, and we appreciate that. Let's see, we need to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our early and youngest students. So that's another part of page 5, which we're doing. So if you go back to page 6, in a nutshell, this is the summary. The federal government has given us $350,000 more dollars. The state has given us around $700,000 more. And locally, we're getting $300,000 more. So thank you for $1.35 million more to meet the needs of students in our school division. In the area of personnel, we have 8 new teachers coming, and that includes our coaches that you approved. That includes our itinerant teachers to help with our early childhood programs, 20 new paraprofessionals. And that happens throughout the year, but we need those teacher assistants to help support our teachers and our students in the classroom. And lastly, we have 11% special education students in the school division, and typically you want to try and keep it around 10%. So I would say that Rockingham's on par with identifying students for special needs and looking for alternative ways to support at-risk students. So I would like you to take this as information and consider approval of the annual special education plan for 25-26.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Board members, do you have any questions for him?
Just to be clear, you'll be at the next meeting asking for approval of this exact plan, right?
Is that how it works? I will.
Very good.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Next up is Ms. Carrie Gray with our CTE Perkins local plan for the 25-26 school year.
Thank you, Chair Hurst and Board and Dr. Shiflett. I have for informational purposes this evening the Perkins local plan for CTE federal funding. If you are following along with the document in front of you, if you look at page 1, the performance assessment, this performance assessment is based on state reporting, and it guides us as we consider areas that are most right for funding or most needed for funding for the next year. So as you can see, our CPS did very well. There are 2 areas in the annual performance report where we did not make the standard, and those are ones that we're focusing our funding on for this year. Those areas are non-traditional program concentration, and what that means is students enrolling in a 2-year related sequence of CTE courses reflect a gender that is statistically not as well represented. So for example, females in a welding program, completing that program would be non-traditional enrollment. And so the way that we plan to target improvement in that area is teacher professional development and also student awareness, so that we're aware of any stereotypes or any areas where we can help students see themselves in those professions. We're not in the role of making anyone taking those classes, but it's important that students realize that those professions are open to everyone. The second standard that we're working on is academic achievement in science for special populations. And VDOE defines special populations as special education, EL, economically disadvantaged students, students in foster care, homeless students, and students with active duty military parents. So to work on those science standards, and that's based on the science SOL scores across the division. High school CTE students work with elementary students in STEM days and watershed education days. And that reinforces the science standards and the application of those in CTE across the elementary and high school levels. So just revisiting those and showing the application for how they work in the world of CTE. And I'm going to flip all the way to schedule 17, which is the budget, and just highlight the main areas where we're focusing our budget. We're focusing on professional development, as I mentioned, replacements and update of equipment and computer labs with a focus on STEM opportunities for those special populations of students. There is a large chunk for equipment allocation to MTC and contract expenses for the 4 high school career coaches, and then expenses related to our new college and career planning tool, Zello. And that is the budget plan for the Rockingham County Public Schools. In addition, at the back of your packet, you'll see that MTC has a separate plan that I'm also bringing to you for informational purposes tonight. As a regional technical center, they're also required to submit their own plan. So they also did very well on their performance assessment. They're also working on the academic standard for science in special populations. They're also working on non-traditional program concentration. The additional standard that they're focused on is post-program placement. And what that means is our students that have completed that 2-year sequence of related CTE courses, we call those completers. They're surveyed a year after graduation. Our teachers and MTC counselors do those surveys and contact students after they've graduated, and they said, are you working in the area of CTE and where you completed? And so it's I think it can be a little misleading because VDOE chooses one concentration area and many of our students complete in multiple CTE areas. So if they choose the area that they're not working in, then yes, they might be working in that area, but that's not the one that they were surveyed on. So I think we're actually probably doing better in that area than the surveys show. The Allocation of funds to NTC is based on funds from RCPS and Harrisonburg City Public Schools. And the way that is calculated, I'm on their schedule 16 now. Sorry, I didn't tell you where I was. The way that is calculated is we look at our total population of CTE students in the division, and then the percentage of those overall CTE students that are attending MTC. And so then that percentage of our overall allocated federal funds goes to MTC. Their focus for that is teacher professional development and updating and purchasing equipment for their programs. So this is for informational purposes. I'm happy to answer. I'm not asking you questions. I'm happy to answer questions though. I will say that this plan is due to VDOE on April 30th. So if you're between now and the next meeting, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, I'd love to discuss those in between now and then so that we have a plan that's ready for a vote at that meeting.
Board members, do you have any questions?
I just have one. The non-traditional non-traditional program concentration. I guess girls in ag is not non-traditional anymore.
Depends on which focus, like
Okay.
which, if you're talking about animal science sequence, I think that is non-traditional. If you're talking about horticulture, it's not. So it really depends on the sequence within the program, not just the overall
Because I
program.
know there's a lot more girls in FFA
Yeah.
than back in my day for sure.
Yeah.
But it
And
just depends on which, so it's not only just, oh, they're in ag CTE or they're in FCCLA CET. It depends on exactly what class they're taking.
Right. And
That's interesting.
Rockingham County used to do very well, and I think we are still doing very well in that, but about, I think 3 years ago, they changed it to students had to have that 2 sequential courses. They had to be a completer. So it's not just I took horticulture 1, but they didn't have room in my schedule for horticulture 2. I'm having trouble talking tonight. They have to be a completer as well. And that kind of dipped our percentage a little bit on that. So we still have lots of students taking a wide variety of courses. They just might not be getting that completer sequence.
Interesting. Thank you.
Any other questions, board members? Okay, thank you, Ms. Gray. The next thing on our list is the field trip policy considerations, which I've already spoken about. Board members, is there anything else you'd like to add before we move to the next item?
I'd like to add that I did work with Ms. Gray and some of the CTE teachers. I met with them and we came up with an alternative policy that you'll find in your packets tonight. So something that we worked on that we'd like for consideration as well.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr.
And thank you to everybody who helped me with that.
Yeah, I wanted to thank you, Ms. Lohr, for going to that meeting. And I had sick kids and it was a big mess right there before spring break at my house. So I do appreciate you going to that. And yeah, I do want to say, I don't know how long this policy has been like this, but I also don't like the verbiage of it. This is discouraged because I loved those field trips and cheerleading competitions that I did when I was a senior in high school. I mean, those were overnight. We went to state, so we were there for 3 and 4 days. So those things I really enjoyed as a kid. And I think definitely we can look into this more. And I think everybody up here has talked to several parents and teachers and things like that. So we've put a lot of time into this and we'll continue to talk about it.
And just on that note, I want to say, it just so worked out that I was the one that could make the meeting, which also made sense because I'm kind of the field trip person. And you're going to hear about some field trips in a minute that I just was on. But also it's important to note that only 2 of us can be somewhere at one time and discuss official business. Because if it's 3 of us somewhere discussing something, it's a quorum and that becomes an unlawful meeting. So I really appreciate the CTE teachers for sitting down with me. And I just wanted to thank my fellow board members for letting me kind of take a lead on that. So thank you.
So is this, you said we'll find it in our packets, is this, okay, thank you.
I can share it with you too.
Yeah, I wish I had known ahead of time, I would have No, and I didn't mean that like, I was just, because
I'll
I
share it.
didn't want you to think that I wasn't prepared.
I've got to figure out how to share it online so that it's not a meeting too. But
Right.
maybe I'll personally share it just
Yeah.
with you
Yeah.
so that you can.
Or I mean, any of us anytime, but no, that's fine.
So you have an electronic copy, because I like the electronic copies to mark up.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing that I have to say about this is I understand the reason for the delay on this policy, and I don't want to say I'm okay with delaying it. That's not the words that I want to use, but I understand it. But I just want to express, and this is not a reprimand to the board because I'm talking to myself, right? Preaching to the choir here, but it's really more of an admonishment that we need to move quicker. Like, we're slow. The sport is slow. And I would just like for us to see a problem and fix it. And I think you and I maybe were talking, Ms. Hurst, about, some things definitely require a well laid out plan. Some things we need to move quicker on. And I just, we've got a certain amount of time. And so I just I don't know what it requires, if it requires us calling each other more often or whatever. We always have so much going on. But anyways, that's just my thought on the whole matter. And just to say to the public that it was, never anything about implementing a policy that we didn't think about really hard. We should have done this last year. We should have already done this. And so I want us to really, I don't know, just think harder and quicker about the problems that we have, because we have a ton of things that we want to do in Rockingham, and we only have 2 years and 8 months to do it in. So it's an admonishment, not a reprimand. So anyways, thank you. That's all I have to say about it.
I appreciate that. And one thing I will say is that there are some things, and I think that's what happened with this one. It's much like the cell phone policy, where they're hard to implement mid-year. And so we might start talking about them now, but we really need to wait on implementation, not mid-year, because there are some well-laid plans that we were not aware of. I will be the first to admit, on this policy, I'm an elementary teacher. We can have a field trip planned, permission signed, and ready to go in less than a month's time. But I was just unaware of how many months. I don't know. I didn't really think about it, but I was quickly brought up to speed. There are many months of planning and fundraising and organizing involved in something like this. And so I do think there are certain policies that maybe there's policies that our board members already know about that they would like to take a look at. Get those to me sooner rather than later, because some of them we might need to address a lot of them in the summer just to prep for the year ahead, which is, what happened with the cell phone policy. We talked about it for a good bit in the spring last year. We implemented it in the summer, or had it ready for August. And I think this is one of those things, like good intentions, but maybe too fast. And we'll work on that process. And so board members, if you do have policies, don't wait to get them to me for things you want to address, but understand that sometimes we might need to wait until June or July when school's out to kind of work through some of those things and get them implemented. So point taken, Ms. Cave. Do you have anything, Ms. Burgoyne?
I just know how hard you all work to fundraise, and I by no means meant to or wanted to disrespect that. I had an FCCLA teacher reach out to me the other day and said they're looking at about $11,000 in fundraisers. And yes, I did. And so I said, Jackie, help me. We've got to figure this out. And so we've been working on it to help support, because you could have one kid go 1 year and then the next year you have 12. And so it's always changing. So I by no means was this meant to disrespect you all or throw you all for a loop. I know several parents who have kids in the FCCLA program who were like, what are you guys doing? And so, yeah, and we were just talking. We want to have these conversations. I spent many late nights talking to parents, and then calling other board members going, did you guys know about this? And so it takes a lot of homework. This is a lot of homework to be able to make a good, informed decision. So anyways.
Okay. Next on our information items, Finance Department staff report. Mr. Moyers, are you coming back up?
So I won't speak on this every time, but this will be a new staff report that comes from me just to give you all a heads up on all the procurement that we have going on with the schools. So that way, when you do come to approve them, that you've been given notice that they've been put out there. So this will just be the format that we'll use, and we'll just keep a running list of ongoing procurements that are currently outstanding until you pass them. Yep. Any questions?
I like it. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Moyers? Maybe.
Didn't we just pass we did, okay.
We did, but I think in the future, this will be an advance warning.
Correct. Yeah, this is the first one. So the only one on there is the one that you did pass tonight, but
So
there'll be
there's
some on
nothing
there.
else hanging out there right now?
There's one that's going to get issued tomorrow. And
Okay.
but that wasn't in time to put it on tonight's. So yeah, you'll see that next time, but it won't come to you the next time for approval to be after that. Yeah. So start giving you a heads up.
Okay.
Awesome, thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Moyers. Okay, next up, let me check the computer system. Yep, okay. Next on our list is something I've added called committee reports. There's really only two active committees right now for the school board. One is the Special Education Advisory Committee, which Ms. Lohr serves on, and one for the Governor's School, the Massanutten Regional Governor's School that Ms. Cave serves on. They both gave recent reports, but if you have anything that you would want to, anything we're unaware of that you want to add to, this would be your time. We'll have this, unless you reach out to me in advance, you're like, no, put this on another night. I'll just put this on our agenda for the first business meeting of every month. And if we don't need it, we don't need it. We move on. So if you have anything.
The only thing that I'll say that for Governor's School, they do their senior recognition on May 15th this year, which I attended last year, so I'm excited about that. But I feel like that's like the official kickoff for all of the graduations. So I'm excited about that. But I can't believe it's this close, but that's all I have for Governor's School.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Cave.
And I think my official committee is the regional SPED committee.
My mistake.
Not all things SPED. So I won't, and I think Mr. Brandt's done a great job with the report. So, and we haven't had a regional committee recently. So
Okay.
I'm good.
Thank you, committee members. All right, next up, superintendent comments.
Thank you, Chair Hurst. I would like to give some recognition to our teachers at MTC and a number of students who, the last few days of spring break, they traveled to Roanoke to participate in the 2025 Virginia Skills USA. And we had a number of students who earned places. The first place winners have now earned the privilege to compete at the national competition this summer. So job skill demo open, first place was Blake Huffman. 3D animation, first place Gavin Adukatis and Troy Kramer. Action skills, first place Bradley Shiflett. Aesthetics, first place Caitlin Crawford. And we also will have a state officer for Skills USA next year, Colton Fellenstein. So I really want to, again, thank those teachers and students for, I guess, cutting their spring break a little short and participating. As well, we had a number of our FCCLA, both our middle schools and high schools, travel to Virginia Beach. I think it was the Thursday of spring break, and they were there till Sunday competing. And I think Ms. Lamb had some students there as well as Mr. Zimmerman, so they could probably tell you the better details. But if the information that's been shared with me is correct, and we had 10 students from Turner Ashby High School who qualified for the national competition this summer. We had a couple of first place winners, Maggie Colors, and then Emma Light was elected as a vice president for Virginia. And then East Rockingham High School had 10 students qualify for national conference. Ariana Stroop, Alyssa Hensley, and Jalen Moneymaker were all first place winners. And Broadway High School had 3 students qualify for nationals. And we had the team of Jalen Wingfield, Josie Hess, and Haven Hess won first place. And Spotswood had 9 students qualify for nationals. Some first place winners, Gigi Diaz and Hayden Dillard and Emily Ray and Chen Yang. And Montevideo had 2 students qualify, as well as Pence with 3. And then Elkton Middle School had a pretty big showing at the middle school level, 10 students for qualifying for the nationals. A number of first place recipients, Isabella Zimbro and Delaney Holloway, Wyatt Hensley and Cole Montgomery, and Haley Bowers and Jacob Myers. So I want to say congratulations to those students and teachers, and I think their national conference will be in Orlando, Florida during the month, sometime during the month of July, maybe around the holiday, I believe. So again, you know, they took time out of their spring break to take students to Virginia Beach and compete, or students for the MTC folks to Roanoke and compete. And so I just want to say congratulations to them and thank you.
That's really awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Dr. Shiflett. Okay, board members, other business. We're about to wrap up. School board highlights, questions, and comments. We'll start with Ms. Cave this evening.
I will just say that I had a very upset little boy tonight because I was missing his baseball game. So to satisfy him, I told him I would wear my baseball clothes to the board meeting. And so normally I leave for board meetings as Holly Cave school board member, but today I left my house as mom. So, and that's sort of what I looked like when I showed up here. So anyways, he was happy that I would be supporting his team while he's playing tonight. I've been out. I had jaw surgery, which was a little harder than what I thought it was going to be. And then right immediately after that, I got the flu. And so my perfect attendance on the board is all mucked up. But I managed to make the MTC meeting 3 days after the surgery, and then 2 days after that, I came down with the flu. So, which is why I missed the next meeting, and I hate that because it's very important for me to be here to do the job that I said I was going to do. But that has sort of eaten up the last, I don't know, 3-4 weeks for me. I did manage to make it to McGackeyville Elementary for their STEM day, and that was really awesome, and got to speak with some of the representatives there and just even talk about, well, the Civil Air Patrol reps that were there, and we were talking about how when they come into the schools and they can really get kids interested in things like flying airplanes for the military and, you know, doing all of those things when they're young. And, you know, getting them interested in things that, you know, if we didn't do those STEM days or didn't have those types of activities in the school, they may never even think about doing. So, and there was a ton of stuff in the gym, different things there. Anyways, I enjoyed that. Thank you, Mr. Baker, for having that for the kids. And I think that's all that I have.
Thank you, Ms. Cave. Ms. Laura?
Yes, it's been a long time since our last school board meeting, and lots of stuff going on. I'm going to highlight 2 things, and hopefully some of my board members will pick up some more of the things. But one, the Friday, or I guess the Thursday, the last day before we left for spring break, I went to Spotswood High School and picked up their EL Ag class and an ag production class, and brought them up to what's the MTC farm these days. And we took some time to talk about animals and animal production, and it was really awesome. Because this was the class that apparently at Spotswood they're folks that are new to our shores and have very limited English speaking ability. They rotate them through different CTEs and different things in our high schools just to get them to exposed to some things. And some of these kids, you could tell, I mean, like there was one little boy that, well, he wasn't little, he was a big old guy, but he was from Syria, I believe, and he just loved the dog. You could tell that he misses having animals in his life, and he needed some animal time. And it was just so fun to watch it. He kept trying. We took him for a little hay ride, and he kept trying to get the dog up on the wagon with us. And she was like, "Well, you got treats. I'll come in with you." And it was really an awesome experience to see the kids just be able to relax and be kids for a minute. And it made me realize how very fortunate and blessed we are to be living where we do. And I'm so happy and honored that I had the ability to share that. I'm going to share that with you all. And then over the weekend, this past weekend, I was able to travel with the Turner Ashby FFA chapter to go to Smith Island. And I don't know, a lot of our groups do Chesapeake Bay Foundation trips. And I've been on several, but I'd never been on one quite like this because TA has a tradition, a 27-year tradition, where they go and interact with the people that live on Smith Island, and they barbecue chicken, and we have a big lunch where we have potatoes and chicken, our Rockingham barbecue chicken, and Smith Island cakes. So I only ate Smith Island cakes, and it was it was wonderful. It was great to see the kids interact. It was a really awesome experience. And then I have to give a huge shout out to my transportation department back there, because so to Smith Island, you take a 45-minute boat ride to the island, and then you take a 45-minute boat ride back. Get off the boat. Everybody's like, okay, go get the bus. I'm like, okay, let's go. I turned on the engine and nothing. I'm like, ooh, we are 6 hours from home and this thing is not running. I called Chris Sowers. He got me in touch. Oh, I called it. Also, the awesome thing about traveling with FFA kids, I said the bus won't start. The teacher, the FFA teacher, also has her bus driver's license. She came over, and 4 boys came over, popped the hood, climbed under the bus. They're all looking, and the boat captain comes over and checks the battery, because I'm like, oh, I left something on. And I called Chris Sowers, and he called Jake and Steve, and Steve Welsh called us back, and I handed the phone to one of the kids, and they figured out what the problem was in about 30 seconds and got us on the road. So I was so happy and so thankful to you guys for helping me out and always being. There were like 3 people in your department that I was able to contact and get really, everybody was very concerned. And I also saw a post online about a bus driver who had a similar experience in Rockingham County. And I just can't say enough good things about our transportation department and how well they help out the bus drivers or the maintenance department, and how well you guys keep the buses going. So thank you, thank you, thank you for everything you all do. And I just heard Ashley say she has a lot of things to say, so I'll let her talk now.
Okay, you're next, Ms. Burgoyne.
So I was able to do the Broadway High School local government tours here with Mrs. Lohr, and we had a really good time. We got to team up with all other agencies in Rockingham County that are involved in local government, most people in this building, and I thought we just had a fun day. On our lunch break, I think Mrs. Lohr and I both independently had the MTC job fair at the fairgrounds on our calendars, and she's like, you want to just go? And so we went down there and hung out for like an hour. And they fed us, which was amazing. And that was really cool. It was packed. I was surprised by how many people were there and how many local businesses and things were there. So that was really cool. I've been really busy lately. I have been doing the Rockingham County Farm Bureau donates books to all of our elementary schools every year. So was that one of yours, Larry? One of your highlights? So I have been running around like a crazy person all over to our schools. I've done Linville, Edom, Plains, and John C. Myers so far. So kindergarten and first grade. And they donate books about farming and things like that. And so I got to one class at John C. and they were like, oh, we've read this book. But their teacher had all of the books from previous years that had been donated. So I was like, all right, which one haven't you guys read? So I took the books to all the classrooms, and we got to pick. So it was cool to see every year they donate books, and they're all about farming. And it was interesting asking these kindergarten and first grade students, how many of you guys live on a farm or have experience with farms? And, only a couple would raise their hands. And I was like, how many of you guys are on the bus after school and drive past the farm? And everybody's like, yep. So that was really fun. my kids' school at Linville, they did the American Heart Association Challenge, and I think a lot of students are doing that right now. I've been hit up by lots of people for donations, and that was really fun because at the end of it, they got to pie some teachers in the face, and they duct taped Karen Ritter, Mrs. Ritter from Linville Edom to the wall, and I took a video because it was hilarious. At the end of it, they were just all chanting, "Pie, Mrs. Ritter," and they were very passionate about it, and she was like, absolutely not. So I thought, we need this for evidence because every single one of those kids was ready to pie her while she was duct taped to the wall. But she was a good sport about it, and all the teachers were super, super good sports about it and really prepared. And this week, every single day, I have been going to, since Friday last week, and then the rest of the week, they're doing a penny challenge, a penny war at Linville Edom. And I did not think that counting pennies was going to be this hard, but you have to separate it by each classroom. There's positive points and negative points. And so I created this crazy spreadsheet, but it took us an hour and a half today to count like $150. Because, you know, with the negative points, the positive points, and then all the money has to be separated. But it was a mess. So about an hour and a half later, I thought this was going to take like 20 minutes. We'll be in and out of here. But that's been really cool. And so if anybody from Linville is watching, Mrs. Fridley is winning. And so I think she'll be sabotaged tomorrow. I think the kids have a game plan, but that's been really cool. And I'm having a lot of fun doing that, even though it's time consuming. So anyway, that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Burgoyne. I've spent the last couple of months working on a number of projects, one of which was maybe the most time consuming of them all. It was the budget season. And so once we got to spring break, I told Dr. Shiflett, let's just go ahead and get started on next year's budget. So we're not, you know, working on it so frantically for 3 months. And he respectfully asked for a month off at least of budget talks. And and I thought that was wisdom because I could use a break from from the numbers. So anyway, I thought to myself, January, February, and March have always seemed the 2 years that I've been on the board so far, just beginning of my year 2. Those seem pretty busy, but then I was reminded that May is coming, and May and June will be really busy too, but there are really fun events coming up. Ms. Burgoyne and I have been visiting schools this year and trying to visit every single school in Rockingham County. I think we're going to make it. We're getting close to the end, but that has been really powerful. We're learning a lot. I want to thank all of the teachers that have, I think, you know, as a former teacher, I don't recall any board members ever doing that. And I would think it would maybe be a little bit intimidating to come and sit face to face and tell a board member, hey, I don't like what you're thinking over here, or hey, good job. It might just be intimidating, but I want to thank teachers for coming and having honest and candid conversations with us. We've really learned a lot. I've enjoyed every single visit at all of our schools. So we're wrapping those things up, and I will add that I attended the Rockingham FFA Heritage Dinner at Freedom Farms. And if you've never been, that's an incredible space. I've been to a number of events there, but I've never been to an event that had the place packed out like people pack it out for FFA, which says a lot. I haven't heard the final number of how much was raised there, but I know it was a lot. Have you heard the number, Ms. Laura?
It was over $30,000
Yes, it was.
without the ticket sales.
Oh.
The auction and the silent auction and live auction and donations was over $30,000.
And I think that's about the number they needed to finish their goal, which was to raise $100,000 to put into a fund that will now generate enough interest to sponsor kids who have financial need to go on FFA trips. So that was really cool. I felt like just listening to the auction and just being in the presence of everybody who is so engaged and supportive of FFA, I thought that was a really cool event, really great event, and it sounds like they made their goal.
And may I add, since you brought that up, we need to give a special shout out to Mr. Eric Fitzgerald for all of his work on that event. And then the next morning, he got up and went to Smith Island too. So, yeah, dedicated person, and it just goes to show, I mean, he doesn't even live in Rockingham County, he lives in Augusta County. But Rockingham has a lot of special people, and the kids are just amazing here. So just wanted to shout that out.
Yeah. Thanks, Ms. Laura. Okay, that's all I have for tonight. As we mentioned earlier, we do have reason to return to closed session. So at this time, if there is someone who is willing to read that motion,
I
would
move
like
the
to
board
hear it.
enter into a closed meeting under Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1 for the purpose of discussing and considering personnel matters, including assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salary, disciplining, or resignation of specific employees. The subject matter is board action pertaining to specific employees. And that's all I need to read on that.
Thank you, Ms. Laura. Board members, do I hear a second? No?
Because we didn't finish student matters. My apology. Let me finish reading then. I also move that the board enter into a closed meeting under Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A2 for the purpose of discussing student matters, including discipline and requests regarding compulsory school attendance based on religious beliefs that would involve the disclosure of information contained in student records. The subject matter is board action pertaining to student discipline and compulsory school attendance. Thank you, Ms. Gilkison.
Thank you, Ms. Laura, and thank you to Ms. Gilkison for always keeping us on track. Board members, I have a motion to enter into closed session. Do I have a second? Excuse me. Thank you, Ms. Burgoyne. All right, any discussion? All those in favor say yes. Yes. All those opposed say no. Motion passes 4-0. We are now in closed session. Thank you all for coming out tonight.